Americans are in battle mode now. Dems versus Republicans in a gerrymander showdown. Who's going to win? Because within hours of each other, South Carolina Republicans squashed the brakes on a major redistricting battle, and federal judges blocked Alabama's redistricting maps again. And people are still paying attention to this?
Every cop, every fed, shoot yourself in the head. Every cop, every fed, shoot yourself in the head.
Why, oh why, can't we all just get along? Work together, be nice to one another, shake hands across the aisle? Oh wait, it's 2026 in America, and that's just not how things work. Let's dig in.
This morning, the battle over redistricting is heating up, with both parties scoring some major wins. First, let's start in South Carolina, where the state Senate may have saved the last Democrat seat in the House. Last night, lawmakers voted against new maps, which targeted Congressman Jim Clyburn's seat. Next, we have the state of Alabama, where Republicans are appealing to the U.S. Supreme Court already. This comes after a district court ruled against their new maps, which could have flipped a Democrat-held seat in the House. The court claimed the map was unfair to black voters, but again, the Supreme Court will have the final say. And then finally, we have Florida. Republicans will move ahead with their map, now signed by Governor Ron DeSantis.
Now look, gerrymandering has existed forever. Republicans do it, Democrats do it, and then suddenly everybody discovers their morality as soon as the other side decides to redraw the maps. But this one feels a wee bit different, because it's firing at warp speed! Okay, so imagine this is your voting map before politicians start messing with it. Now suddenly the lines are changing and voters are getting packed together or spread across multiple districts, all to seemingly help one political party win more seats. And yes, I'm sure there are nuances, but you get the point I'm making. Seriously, this is why some congressional maps end up looking like they were drawn by politicians hyped up on caffeine. And yes, Trump definitely helped pour gasoline on this latest political firestorm with Texas. But Republicans would argue that they were responding to years of aggressive Democratic map advantages in blue states as well. And honestly, that's part of why this whole thing keeps escalating, whether people want to accept that or not. Because nobody trusts anybody anymore. Nobody wants to work together. Everything immediately becomes political warfare. I feel like Kevin McAllister from Home Alone. Seriously.
The first congressional maps drawn in 1788. Anti-Federalists in Virginia forced Federalist candidate James Madison into a district in hopes of keeping him out of Congress. Madison won the election anyway. Fast forward to 1812, the term gerrymandering was coined, named after Massachusetts Governor Elbridge Gerry. Gerrymandering described a snaking state Senate district designed especially to help Gerry's party gain seats in the chamber.
OMG moment! Politicians have been mandering the Jerry since the start. So here's my truth drop for this video. Trump is transactional. If people work with him, he works with people. I know Dems don't like hearing that, but it's true. We could probably be getting so much done right now. But no, if people fight President Trump, he fights back harder. We've all seen it. And now that mentality is bleeding over into state politics and redistricting efforts across the country.
Our previous review of the undisputed evidence left us in no doubt that Alabama's legislatively enacted plan intentionally discriminated based on race in violation of the Constitution. Our re-examination in light of Calais yields the same conclusion. That's super important, that last sentence, is it not?
Well, the Supreme Court, after they issued that landmark decision in Calais, which kind of limited the scope of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, after that decision came down, of course, that was a case from Louisiana, the justices sent a similar case from Alabama, a fight over those districts, back down to that federal district court panel and said, you need to rethink your decision in light of our landmark ruling. That's very common. The court does that all the time when it has a major decision that kind of changes our thinking on the law.
And this is where Americans completely split, because one side hears protecting minority voting power, and the other side hears courts interfering with elections again. And suddenly something that should be a careful legal process becomes an online civil war in like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Here's the important part. This Alabama case specifically centers around whether congressional maps are unfairly diluting black voting power under the Voting Rights Act, which is why the courts are moving so aggressively here. And honestly, once you actually dig into the case, it's probably way more nuanced than social media wants to admit. The Voting Rights Act was passed in 1965 to stop racial discrimination in voting, and one major part of the law says states can't redraw maps in ways that unfairly weaken minority voting power. Now, over the years, the Supreme Court has limited parts of the law, but courts can still step in if judges believe maps intentionally dilute representation based on race. And that's exactly why Alabama is back in the court right now. Now, personally, I want fairness, but let's be truthful. People are not really operating in that fairness realm these days. But to be clear, if you follow enough black conservatives online like I do, you'll notice there are real disagreements happening here, even within the conservative circles about what fairness actually looks like. And I think Americans should want these decisions handled carefully, non-emotionally, non-overnight, and not during a political panic attack. Who wants that, right?
You know, we were asked to redraw congressional district lines. That's a process that occurs once every 10 years. It takes a couple of years to do. It involves gathering census data to make sure that each district has, the same number of people in it, or roughly the same. It involves going around the state and listening to the people. I mean, they're the ones that are going to be electing congressional representatives. They'll be the ones that are heard when we draw these lines. It involves statistical analysis, demographic analysis, legal opinions. I mean, it's a very complicated process that the United States Supreme Court has said you have to follow in order for these maps to be constitutional.
This interview resonated because there is a lot more going into redrawing these maps than people realize. Slow down already. Because whether maps lean red or blue, I think people should be able to trust the process. And in this case, leadership was apparently only given 19 days, and the maps were redrawn without any real input from South Carolina citizens. That trust disappears real fast. And one thing I actually found interesting in looking into all of this, some Republicans themselves were also saying, hey, wait a second, people are already starting to vote here. So that was another caveat in this sitch. I want to take a moment and say, and this may be hard for some people to hear, but both parties absolutely try to maximize power with redrawing the maps. Blue states? Check. Red states? Check. The difference now is that courts are getting way more involved, which is probably healthy. My personal opinion? These decisions affect representation, elections, and trust in the system itself. So maybe catching our breaths and slowing down for a moment isn't the worst idea. That's just my take. Phew. Politics is nuts sometimes. That's it for this one. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I would love to know your thoughts on this one. Please drop them in the comments. In the meantime, I hope you all have a blessed day. This is a Bleeding Heart MAGA, and I'm out.